self-pleasure and empowerment. It's a connection that's been promoted heavily in modern wellness culture. But emerging neuroscience suggests this relationship might be far more complicated than we've been led to believe.
That's fascinating timing because I was just reading some research about how our brain's reward systems can get completely rewired by certain behaviors. The science behind it is pretty eye-opening.
Well, let me break this down because it's crucial to understand how our brain's dopamine system actually works. When we engage in any pleasurable activity, our brain releases dopamine. But here's the thing. Artificial stimulation can create what scientists call a supernormal stimulus, which essentially overwhelms our natural reward pathways.
So you're saying it's similar to what happens with social media addiction or even excessive sugar consumption. The way our brains can get flooded with these intense dopamine spikes?
Exactly that. And research shows that each time we trigger these intense pleasure responses, we're actually desensitizing our brain's reward system. Studies indicate that regular overstimulation can lead to a 30% decrease in dopamine receptor sensitivity within just 2 weeks.
That really puts into perspective why people might start feeling less joy from normal daily activities. What about the hormonal aspects?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting. When we trigger these pleasure responses, we're not just dealing with dopamine, we're releasing a cascade of hormones, including oxytocin, which typically spikes by 300% during intimate activities. But here's the catch. When this happens in isolation, we're actually training our brains to disconnect pleasure from human interaction.
The way you're describing this makes me think about the broader implications for mental health and relationships. How does this affect people's ability to form real connections?
Well, studies from the National Institute of Mental Health show that excessive self-pleasure is correlated with a 45% increase in reported feelings of social isolation. And here's what's fascinating. Brain scans show that the same neural pathways that light up during human bonding start to become less responsive over time.
That's pretty alarming when you consider how many people might be unknowingly affecting their brain chemistry this way.
And you know, what's really fascinating? Traditional Eastern medicine has been warning about these effects for thousands of years. Ancient Taoist texts specifically discuss how excessive self-pleasure can deplete what they call vital energy. Something modern science is just starting to understand through the lens of neurochemistry and hormonal balance.
The way you're connecting ancient wisdom with modern neuroscience is really compelling. What solutions have researchers found?
Recent studies show that people who practice energy retention and channeling techniques report a 40% increase in overall life satisfaction within just 3 months. The key is understanding that sexual energy isn't just about pleasure. It's a powerful force that can be redirected into creativity, personal growth, and deeper connections.
That's such a different perspective from what we usually hear in modern wellness conversations. How do people start making these changes?
Well, research indicates that the most successful approach is gradual reduction combined with active redirection. Studies show that people who replace pleasure-seeking behaviours with activities that naturally boost dopamine, like exercise, learning new skills, or meaningful social interaction, have an 80% higher success rate in maintaining long-term changes.
The data really supports this more balanced approach. What about the psychological aspects?
That's crucial. Psychological studies show that people who understand the neurological basis of their behaviours are 3 times more likely to make successful changes. It's not about shame or restriction. It's about understanding how our choices affect our brain chemistry and making informed decisions.
You know, this whole conversation really challenges the current narrative about self-pleasure and empowerment.
Exactly, and that's why this discussion is so important. When we look at the complete picture, the neuroscience, the hormonal effects, the psychological impact, we can make more informed choices about our well-being. Studies show that people who maintain balanced pleasure responses report 60% higher levels of life satisfaction and significantly stronger interpersonal relationships.
That really brings everything full circle, from the brain chemistry to real-world impact.
And ultimately, that's what this conversation is about. understanding how our choices affect our overall well-being, and making decisions that support our long-term happiness rather than just short-term pleasure. The science is clear. When we work with our biology instead of against it, we create the foundation for more fulfilling lives and deeper connections.